Hello everybody, this is September and I'm checking in from the Hanure server this evening. In this video I'd like to talk about the current armor cost and whether or not the items that you see on the auction house for sale, armor-wise at least, are worth the asking price. To answer those questions, I have completely redone the cost to craft Ayanad spreadsheet with the new 3.5 crafting system and the current auction house prices. I've actually calculated everything using both the standard crafting stations, the cloth, the leather, the platforms, and also the cost to craft via the armor house crafting station. What is more, I have actually now done this for every single piece of armor from head to toe and for each armor type, leather, plate, cloth. So there's going to be, in my typical fashion, a huge spreadsheet made available to all of you. And I have a feeling this is actually going to be one of those videos that takes me a little longer to get through, but I also feel like this is some of the best information that I've ever put out. So sit tight and let's get on with it. I don't really know about any of you guys, but I've had a really hard time selling a lot of the stuff I actually had ready to go for 3.5. I mean, I had 4 Ayanad pieces, 4 Delphinod pieces. These are pieces that I'm not using, and I've just been continually relisting them and undercutting repeatedly and repeatedly. What didn't happen, as I and many others probably suspected, was there was going to be a massive demand put on crafted items under the assumption that people would start feeding all this stuff to their Erenor items. And that did not happen, and I suspect that there are a couple of reasons why. So the first thing that I'm thinking is we didn't really plan on this huge bottleneck on the Erenor items. And the bottleneck that I'm talking about is the one from collecting both 200 acid fragments and 200 cursed armor fragments so you can make the acid drop and the cursed armor thingamajiggy. With the 3-time drop rate that we had for the first week of 3.5, I actually sat down and figured this out. I would have had to spend 18 hours in each one of those zones with the 3 times drop rate just to complete one set for myself. So that's based off of my personal observations. So that actually means that anybody that had a full-time job likely wouldn't have had enough time in this 1 week to collect a set for themselves, which means the only option that you would have had thus far is to buy them off the auction house. And of course, the prices are beyond insane right now. I saw, and even today, the prices are still like hovering around 10K per item. And so the values that we actually were expecting and what we saw from Korea was 430 gold for the acid drop, not 10K, and around 2,800 gold for the armor shard. Now, I don't know if they have a different system, but whatever they have going on, we don't have the same thing going on. And I don't think people were prepared to pay their current prices in the NA/EU regions. The second reason I think what was going on is that the people most likely to work on Erenor straight away were the big spenders, or what everybody and even I have referred to them as the whales. So here's the thing. Even whales have their limits. I mean, when you look at the cost of crafting Erenor and then regem it to even just basically match what a whale is currently wearing, we're talking big bucks. I mean, these guys have already got legendaries and mythics. So for them, the cost is just outrageous. So then, of course, you have to think about this, though. If you are a whale and you go to replace your item, you don't just want to spend a ton of money just to get basically where you're at. You actually want to go better. So that's money on top of money, my friends. In fact, I actually just revisited the Erenor worksheet that I did for weapons pre 3.5. And actually, the values for the most part are actually lower than what you would currently pay. What we were looking at, what we were figuring initially is 81,000 gold just to start your Erenor on a legacy server, and then another 40,000 gold to get to a modest level like Celestial. That's 121,000 gold. I just want you to understand how much gold that is. Let me put that in perspective. If you just started this game today or this week or whenever, and somebody gave you 121,000 gold, you could, barring the market, buy enough Apex to play this game as a patron for the next 5 years. Actually, more than 5 years. The cost is just astonishing. So we're talking, please send my children, please send my grandchildren to college type of money. All right, moving on. I just felt that was important to mention those reasons because it's going to be relevant to what I want to talk about, which is the cost to craft the Ayanads, how I actually figured out the regrading cost, and subsequently some of the deals that I've actually been seeing on the auction house. So me personally, I've been a crafter since day one of live 3 years ago in September. I tend to pay attention to what is going on. Before 3.5, crafting was just a matter of patience. And you would just wait, and eventually you would get your return. Your luck would go your way. And it's not really luck. It's just playing the numbers and pricing things right. But now, I mean, at least currently, I would strongly advise anybody not to start crafting unless you're just crafting for yourself. You see what actually happened in 3.5. The system changed so that regrading isn't the main exit point of items. People aren't blowing up the type of items that they would previously. Now items are actually expected to go out of the system by being fed into the Erenor items, and that's just how they get removed. But as I pointed out just a few minutes ago, that isn't happening. People aren't making Erenor, so therefore they're not feeding them any of these items, and we just got a glut of items. So there's stuff on the auction house that is actually cheaper to buy them right now than it is for the cost to make them, and you're going to see that here in a second. Okay, so let's just get into this. Let's bring up the spreadsheet. All right, so here we go. What I've done here is to pull the values from all the items used to create armor pieces, and this information is from my home server Hanure, which at this point we can just collectively call the North America legacy values for now. Fresh start servers, you guys are going to see some slightly higher prices. So what we have here is this first tab holds the values of all these items. So if you want to download the spreadsheet and update it so that your auction house prices are there, you can please do so. The link's going to be in my video description. Okay, so the first tab is the main values. And the one thing that I do actually need to point out here, I was not happy with the prices that I saw on the tier 3 fabrics, like the Cloud Spun, the Wind Spirit, the Sunridge ingots, and also I just threw that in there because the transmuter prices weren't correct in my opinion either. So the prices were actually higher than what it would cost you to make them yourself, and if you're a crafter, you know that it's relatively labor inexpensive, and you already have the skill level to turn the base components in. And so what I did is actually I just used the base components to figure out the actual cost. But again, if you want to just use what's on the auction house, I mean, go for it, download the spreadsheet, make it your own. Okay, so the next tab here is the cloth tab. But let's actually look at the leather tab, because it's probably the most popular armor type currently. Okay, so what we have here at the top is a copy of the original prices featured on the first tab, the material cost tab. And just so you know, if you update the cost on the material cost tab, these prices will automatically update here. You don't have to do anything. Just change that first tab to your prices and you're good to go. And so next I have the basically two sections. The first section here is called Path Number 1. What this is the cost to buy an item from an armor merchant, which those guys are found in pretty much all the big cities, and then the cost to upgrade it all the way to Ayanad. Every slot from head to feet is listed, and at the end, if you scroll over, you'll see the total cost here at the end. So this set here shows you the cost to go from apprentice to artificer. The next section, the one below here, is the cost to go from artificer to illustrious, and then so on, so on, and so on, until you get to the bottom, which is actually the total cost to craft an Ayanad based on the current auction house prices, again from my server. So if you look here, you get a hood costing you, or well, in this case, it would be a cap costing you around 16.5k gold, and a jerkin costing you around 21,000 gold. The next section here is called Path Number 2, and this is where I calculated the cost to craft an Ayanad from a armor smithing house. It works just like the previous path, but what I did was I updated the quantities and reduced some of the regrade cost, and we'll talk more on that here in a minute. But as you look through this, you'll notice that I did a little calculation at the end of each total, which was to compare making an item from the armor house versus that of what it would cost you if you did it normally. What was surprising, well, actually I had a few surprises here making this spreadsheet. The first surprise was the savings weren't all that huge. I mean, if you look like towards the end here, the max savings of an Ayanad leather here, the best savings is 228 gold. I mean, meh. The second surprise for me was actually kind of an oddity. So if we scroll back up here and we take a look at the fine leather cost to craft either the belt or the guards in this illustrious to magnificent section, it actually cost 8. Now, unlike every other tier, when you go to the next step, the mats actually go up, but in this case, they went from 8 to 6. And there was actually one more surprise that I found when I was doing this spreadsheet, but that was with the regrade cost, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. Which actually brings me to how I actually calculated all these regrade costs. So to make this video and to get this information as accurate as possible, I actually had my tailor craft an item up to Delphinod at, unfortunately, the normal crafting station. And this way I was assured everything that came out was basic grade, so I could just record the cost to upgrade at each grade until I reached the level required to upcraft to the next tier. Had I used the armor house, there is actually a chance that it would come out with an extra grade or 2, so I actually had to do it the more expensive way. Now, I didn't make one of everything because I don't have Starship Citizen money. Instead, I actually use math. I upgraded one item. In my case, I was a tailor, so I did a shirt. And if I unhide these rows here at the top, you can see here at each tier, starting at the apprentice all the way to Delphinod, I recorded the actual cost to do the regrade. From there, I used math to determine the percentage of increase at each level. So to get a starting point of everything, I did actually purchase one apprentice level of everything, and then I put it in my regrade window with a scroll, and then that told me how much it would cost me to push the button. So from there, I just leveled up this shirt through each tier, regrading it to the appropriate grade, and then basically parsing the numbers. This seems pretty logical, yeah? So it should be pretty straightforward how this stuff works, probably until you get to this first green area, which is at the magnificent level. And it is at this point you get away from the 100% chance of regrade success, and now you have to actually determine should you use a charm or not. Well, I can help you out with that. At the arcane and heroic levels, use a charm like it's your job. If you do not use a charm, you may actually end up paying double the cost. And the reason for that is because at the arcane and heroic level, you only have a 50% chance to go up. So times that by 2 to get to 100, double the cost. So you could probably roll those dice and win once or twice, but as a crafter, you're going to pay for it eventually. What is more, the cost of green and blue charms is that of like a standard dungeon repair bill. Just use the green and blue charms. Over here in the Ethereum section, you'll also notice that the charms are also the best option. Okay, earlier I actually stated there was a surprise with the regrades, so let's take a look at that next. When I get to the Delphinod grade, and I ran the charm numbers on going from unique to celestial, it actually comes out that the best value is with the yellow charm as opposed to the red. That just shocked me. It turns out for this hood, for example, no charms would have cost me 358 gold. That's basically hitting it 3 times, almost 3 times. Yellow, with the yellow charm, I only have to spend 338 gold. But with the red, due to the cost of the charm, it actually comes out to 369 gold. I just found that to be surprising. So what it really comes down to is the cost of the charms versus the cost of hitting it without one, basically 3 times. You'll have to pay attention to charm prices, guys. I've listed them here in this little table here, and you can change these if the prices change. So just use that to evaluate when you should or should not use charms at this level. Again, that's unique to Celestial. The last thing I need to talk about is how I figured out the Armor House regrade cost. So let's go ahead and scroll down and take a look. This one was actually a little bit tricky, but I felt like I covered it as good as I could. So the way the Armor House works is that when you craft something up, you actually save a couple Archeum or two, or 1 or 2 Archeum as opposed to crafting it normally. But you also have what Sock said on the live stream, which was a 50% chance of it coming out above basic grade. Now, what she didn't say was what the chances of each of the grades, like Grand, Rare, and Arcane, were. And so what I needed to do was figure out a way to represent that kind of savings, a 50% savings of X. But unfortunately, we don't know what X is. I know it would be at least Grand. So what I did is I took the cost of the Grand regrade and minus 50%. Along with that, I actually removed half of a scroll from the Armor House or scroll cost. What this basically while this is ultimately will be actually lower than the ultimate savings that you'll get from using the armor house, I just did not want to make any assumptions as to what the percentage of the time it's going to be grand, what percentage is it going to be rare, what percentage is it going to be arcane. Instead, I just played it safe and used only the information that we have. So that's pretty much the regrade sheet, and we'll see those values represented back here if we switch over to the leather tab. You can see the regrade cost and then the amount of scrolls needed. And in some cases, like down here at the Magnificent to Ethereum section, you'll see like a scrolls needed cost of 4.125. I didn't lose my mind, guys. What is going on is that when you regrade it, you actually have an 87.5% chance for it to succeed your regrade. So that is if you use a charm, which means to reach 100, you actually need 0.125 more of a scroll, right? Okay. So no, you can't just use 0.125 of a scroll, but math. Then if you scroll down to the armor house section and you look at that same grade, you'll see that I removed an extra half of a scroll, and that's to account for the reduced or the chance of the item getting upgraded or catching another grade when you roll it at the armor house. So you'll see that in this case, it only takes 3.625 scrolls to achieve success. Okay, so that's pretty much how this sheet was made. And oh boy, did it take like pretty much all day, like almost 12 hours. But here's how I feel that this is important. Because you can look at this data right now and know exactly what it would cost to make any type of armor, well, any type of craftable armor, barring obsidian, those don't count. You can know exactly right now if something is underpriced, or for that matter, is it way overpriced. Now you got to remember that people are crafting, they're spending their labor, and a lot of times they're also regrading the stuff when they try to sell it. So you got to put a little bit of leeway on these crafters, man, because right now we're getting boned. So let's just take a look at the cost to make an Ethereum leather here. And just let me remind you that this cost here is the cost for a basic grade Ethereum. Now let's go ahead and pop open the auction house. And let's take a look to see what kind of armor we have available. And let's just see if any of it's worth buying. Auction house stuff. All right, guys, I just wanted to take a quick look here and take a look at some of the stuff that's going on in the auction house. And show you how you can use this worksheet straight away. I'm going to try to put over here in editing a little picture of the cost so you can see what I'm looking at. I have the benefit of having two screens. So we were in the leather section, and let's just take a look at some of the Ethereums. All right, so this first item here, this is a set of Celestial Flame Guards, which, is fine. It's over the grade, or above the grade is what I used to call this. You only need it to be unique to craft it to Delphinod. But to craft an Ethereum set of guards, we're looking at, for the basic grade, we're looking at 1,559 gold, and that's based on the current prices, and it's not counting labor or anything. So this is right here saving you 250 gold, and that's not counting the fact that you do not have to regrade the Ethereum to make it right to Delphinod, so you would have to add in the regrade cost, which you won't see it, but I'll tell it to you, and you can look at the spreadsheet to confirm it. But the sleeves regrade cost would be another 277 gold, so that's like over a 500 gold savings on just that item. And the cap is basically in the same boat. I mean, it's not quite as impressive. Well, actually, it is. So you look at the cap price, and it's 1,928 gold. And then again, you're going to save another 200 and some gold because you don't have to regrade it. So even this jerkin's amazing. It's a 2300 gold jerkin, plus the cost of the regrades that are on it that you don't have to do if you're looking to make an Elfinaut. You cannot make this stuff cheaper than these prices. That's what I'm saying. And I've bought some of this, but as I mentioned earlier in the video, there's just a glut. There's just too much stuff that no one is taking off the marketplace. And if you're in a position where you have some extra gold to spend, use that spreadsheet to your advantage. Wow, okay, so that is pretty much it for all this video. As I always say, I hope that you guys have found this information both helpful and informative. So, unlike my other videos, I'm actually going to upplay the support just a little bit more than normal. So guys, please bear with me. Like I said earlier, this spreadsheet took like 12 hours to produce, and I would actually like to do more, actually 2 more, covering both weapons and jewelry. And then, of course, as I always do, I make this stuff public. And I'm not even going to talk about the time it took me to write the transcript and then, of course, record this video and edit this video. I do this stuff mostly because I love it, and I love helping others. And you guys have been so appreciative in game and on my Twitch streams. I really, really, really appreciate that. But I'm currently moving into a new phase of my life, and I would actually love nothing more than to do this kind of stuff full time. But to do that, I kind of need some support. So for the most part, you guys, I've been keeping YouTube off or not allowing YouTube to do any advertising on my video. I have a few out there that I've been running trials with, but for the most part, I would like to continue to keep it that way. So you guys can show your support for as little as $1 by becoming a Patreon. There's going to be a link to that in my video description, as there always is. Patreons, they can receive early access to videos, like up to 24 hours. So when there's time-sensitive stuff, that's good intel, man. And then all Patreons receive invites to my private Discord and social media reciprocation, meaning I will follow you. If you can't do any of that stuff, I understand. I mean, you know, not everybody can. I ask that you just subscribe to me here on YouTube. You can also follow me on Twitch and Twitter. And just don't forget to hit that like button. Okay, so that's it. Until next time, September saying, be well.